and also I'm quite open to interruption. So,
can you answer an age-old question, argument that I've had ever since my first visit to Napa? Do you use, first of all, do you use corks or are you on a new plastic type?
oh,
I don't know. You'll know why then. Sorry,
okay.
I didn't
No.
mean to tell you.
So this is really interesting, and I am nothing if not changeable on this subject. You know, I got so frustrated that in 2004 I bought a screw cap machine for the whites because I got so frustrated. And it wasn't that, look, if people tell you, if a winemaker tells you,
This is going to be my question.
if a winemaker tells you, oh, you know, those Portuguese, they're terrible, and you know, I've got the corkiness and it's 8% of my wines are corked, that's just like super lazy, right? What we do at Silverado is every bale, we take a statistically significant sampling, and we put it in a neutral wine, and the next morning after it's sat overnight, we sniff it. If we get over 0.5% corkiness, then we send the bale for another sampling to TCS, which is a laboratory in Semillon, and if they get the same result that we do just with our nose, then the whole bale goes back. So you don't. So cork is a perfect closure if it's good.
But if you see a sommelier draw a cork in a restaurant and sniff it, is he sniffing, does he know what he's doing, or is he just doing it for effect? Because I've been told that you smell cork.
First of all, as a winemaker, I must say that all sommeliers are perfect. know everything about
it's the other one.
I'm absolutely right about this.
It's the other one.
So woe be it for me to say anything contrary. But you know, they must really like the smell of cork.
That's what I'm asking.
It's hard to smell trichloral anisole in the cork itself. It's much easier to smell it in the wine.
So it really, it's for effect that for people who don't know anything about wine.
Yeah, but it's fabulous, isn't it? Right, isn't it? I mean,
I've got my answer.
Yeah, and he's going to run around every sommelier that does that. Well, you know, this guy from Silverado, it's spelled S-I-L. His name is Russ Weis. I want to be very specific about this. Says that you're full of hooey. Yeah, I'm in deep trouble now. I'm in such deep trouble. But yeah, no, typically, you know, TCA is something that you can smell a lot better than wine. I've never been able to smell it before. Yeah.
Over 100% you have these annual.
Oh, right. Such a great question. Right, and the answer is no. Right. So our typical estate blend is and these aren't far off, is about 85% Cabernet, about 10% Merlot, and then a little bit of Petit Verdot and Cabernet Franc. So both of those are I mean, within a percentage point or two, that's what you're looking at. And it's interesting that the big difference, I think, is that the 91 had just a little tiny bit of our Mount George ranch in it, because we planted Mount George in '87, and so we had a little bit of young fruit coming off of that ranch, and it was the last vintage before we really had to face phylloxera head on and really start replanting the Stag's Leap branch. So it's kind of the last, you know, pre-modern phylloxera vintage that we had in Stag's Leap, and we had to take about 4 years off up in Stag's Leap as we replanted that vineyard. So kind of the last of really the older vines on that on the vineyard before replanting. Whereas the 2001 is more of a typical blend for us in terms of the difference between the vineyards. We've got a healthy slug of Mount George in there. Almost all of our Merlot and Cab Franc and Petit Verdot come from Mount George, and then maybe 70% of the Cabernet would be from Stag's Leap. I should talk a little.
Sorry, on that question as well, do you vary the amount of Semillon you put in your...
Oh, the Sauvignon Blanc, right. So, yeah, for the 09, that was 09 was, I think, probably one of the highest amounts of Semillon that we've ever done. It was it 8%? Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty high for us. Usually we're between 3 and 5%. The whole notion for us was with the Semillon is kind of interesting. We really love those pure aromatics of Sauvignon Blanc. And you know, Semillon, which is really kind of cool as a varietal, gives you a little bit more of that. Well, you know, can get a little white peach. It can be kind of figgy and sort of green figgy as well. And so that's fine, but we don't want a huge amount of that. What we're really doing with Semillon is texture. You know, that's the one part of that white, the one element of that white wine that's actually barrel fermented. We're doing that in a double barrel, so the wood isn't quite as aggressive. But we want a little bit of that autolysis, and we want that creaminess that you get when you do the lees stirring to just kind of give a nice, fatter mouthfeel to Sauvignon Blanc, which we feel is terrific, but can sometimes be just a little shrill. You know, just it can get a little nervy on you. And the 09 was a really shy crop, a very small crop for us, and a really bright, acidic, zippy kind of vintage for us. And so we actually ended up with a little bit more of that barrel fermented Semillon to kind of, you know, round it out a little bit.